Before you go.
Oh boy. And we're all out of time. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Sorry, I was stuck on a monorail.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Dig a Little Deeper at a special time. Normally, we had it planned for a special time. We didn't know it would be this special, but right on time, 2:51 Pacific. Here we go for this week's Dig a Little Deeper. My name is Dibby Mosley, co-founder of Laughing Place. To my left, the other co-founder of Laughing Place, the most beautiful woman in the world, Rebecca Mosley.
You're so sweet. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Down below is from on the go at MCO, Shelly.
Everybody.
And over there, the vice president in charge of 40 Winks. That would be the one and only Jeremiah Good.
Hi, guys. I apologize. This is completely my fault. I was on the monorail. I ended up taking a nap. I couldn't get my own little corner because they couldn't open the doors to evac me, so I had to... Never mind. On with the show.
We did get some great advice, though. You tried to...
I did. I did.
There's a lot of that going on.
So thanks to Donna Pendleton here, who had a birthday recently. So we said, hey, Donna, what do you want us to do for Dig a Little Deeper? She said, hey, guys, why don't you do the monorail? So today's Dig a Little Deeper is on the Disneyland Monorail, Walt's little baby. So we're going to be talking about the Disneyland Monorail, both at this level and then a little deeper. So that's what we do here at Dig a Little Deeper. The Walt Disney World Monorail is not what we're talking about yet. The Disneyland Monorail opened on June 14th, 1959, 4 years into Disneyland's tenure. It was an e-ticket attraction, of course. And did you know originally the monorail was a ride, not a mode of transportation? You just did a little loop around Tomorrowland, then you got off. It didn't go anywhere. Did you know that?
I did not.
Did you guys know that?
I did.
Yeah, you're allowed to speak. Okay.
I didn't remember that it was just originally like a little loop.
Yeah,
and
just
then
a loop.
Eventually it extended.
Yeah, it just went around a little circle.
Just around a little circle. Aww.
So, but Walt Disney was always fond of monorails, and he envisioned it as kind of the public transportation of the future. And so he commissioned it for Disneyland. They originally were being built by another company called Standard Carriage Works, but they were not getting done in time. So much like everything else, Walt took control. He handed it over to a young man by the name of Bob Gurr. Bob Gurr is known as the man in charge of anything with wheels at Disneyland. And I'm going to show you a picture of that young man. There he is right there. And even at that early age, that young man could build a monorail.
That's actually Bob and our son.
This is Bob when he wasn't quite so young. Celebrating a birthday, apparently, with our son, Gideon.
Yeah, at the Contemporary Resort. So,
Contemporary Resort, where I think he was there for a Destination D.
Yes, he was.
So Bob Gurr. And by the way, Bob Gurr, Disney legend. Is he a Disney legend? I always forget.
Yes.
But certainly a window on Main Street. One of the most well-known Imagineers, does so many appearances. Wrote for laughingplace.com back in our early days, wrote a series of columns called Designer Times, once a month, detailing his entire career. It was so popular. I just said, hey, Bob, you ever consider writing a column? Would you mind doing one for Laughing Place? He said, sure, doobie. And he sent it over every month. And so he then decided to turn that into a book. So at his request, we removed them all. He owns them. And he turned them into this book, Designed Just for Fun by Bob Gurr.
And you can find all those essays within this book. But originally they appeared on Laughing Place, and we were very, that is cute, but no, he didn't, but he probably could have very easily. But they originally appeared here. He's a great storyteller. I mean, and so I can see why his engineering prowess ended up with the Disney company, because, you know, like I say, he's also a really good storyteller, so I could see where he would have kind of fit in with that dynamic, even though he wasn't in that kind of that artistic mind. He was of that, you know, engineering mind. Not that he wasn't artistic. I'm not trying to
drawings.
No, I'm not trying to say that. It's just, you know, there's kind of like there's differing frames of thought sometimes.
Donna's asking, is this book still for sale? Do you know?
You know what? I'm not sure. I'll look while you guys talk.
So, opened June 14th, 1959. We've got some pictures from the opening ceremony. I was there. I was not there.
Are you going to be in a stroller in this picture, Doobie?
But there is Walt with his baby. Walt loved his trains. Walt loved the monorail. And this is obviously the Mark I monorail. That man right there is Richard Nixon, his wife and 2 daughters, and the pilot in the old bubble, which kind of reminds me of the submarine now, seeing that like that.
That's art.
That's art on top. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
That's art on top. That's art on top. I'm so proud of myself.
Yeah.
Isn't that Bob? Isn't the story that Bob was the pilot?
We're getting to that.
Yeah.
Rebecca's going to tell that awesome story.
He was the pilot, but for this publicity photo, that's Art Linkletter in the bubble.
But yes, Bob was the pilot because they just got it working. Well, you're going to tell that story. They just got it working pretty good the day before this, so Bob had to be the pilot. There's just a few pictures from the opening. Of course, if you've seen this video, the scissors didn't work. Walt just ended up pulling it apart. You can see the old school skyway in the background. That's kind of cool.
That's really cool.
And this is Richard Nixon, at the time vice president, did go on to become president, as we all know. And I hope we all know. Allweg there, that was a company in Germany that had that kind of created the monorail, I believe.
One of the stories that I love about the monorail was that while they were I think it was while they were in Europe, but I'm maybe misremembering the exact details, but they were in one of those train cars where the car part is underneath the train, the tracks, Walt and Lillian. And because of that, there's like a bit more motion.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lillian actually, you know, made a kind of an offhand comment to her husband, well, why don't they just put the train on top? And so that way it won't shake so much.
Oh, wow.
And so they had been kind of playing around with the idea. And then when Walt was driving the roads of Germany, by chance, the monorail crossed over the highway they were in from one part of the engineering complex to the other part of the engineering complex. And he, in essence, just followed that train and drove to where the tracks ended up, and then started talking to them, but they didn't understand each other. And he was directed to like the headquarters area, which was on the other side. And that's kind of how the partnership started. And apparently because of the viewliner construction that they had been doing, the company decided to go ahead and partner with Walt in bringing the monorail to Disneyland. And these kinds of stories are found in not only in the Disneyland Monorail book, but also in the classic nickel tour written by Imagineers David Mumford and Bruce Gordon, which is a fantastic archival reference source if you're someone who loves Disney stories. Unfortunately, it's not in current print, but
worth it if you can find that. Is easily,
you can find a copy.
Easily my favorite Disney history book of all time.
And in fact, a lot of the stuff is just reprinted in the Disney monorail. So, you know, if you can't get your hands on it, this is a current print book, and some of that information is brought over from the nickel tour.
And this is the viewliner. This is it's essentially a train from early Disneyland, but you can even see there the similarities in terms of the look of the monorail. But so it opened with Richard Nixon, vice president, and there's an awesome story that Bob Gurr loves to tell about that opening that we've kind of paraphrased, and I'm hoping Rebecca can recount this story.
Well, as Bob Gurr likes to tell it, they'd been having some operating challenges with it, and he wasn't concerned. He wasn't really like assured that it was going to be fully operational that day, and he knew he could get one good ride out of it. So he was, you know, pretty much focusing on making sure that would happen when the cameras were rolling. But Walt, in his excitement, you know, there with the Nixon family, he's like, okay, let's fire it up. Let's go, Bob. And so Bob says he just fired it. Boss said to fire it up. I fired it up. They drove off and then realized that they had left the Secret Service on the platform. And so it was quite a moment of fear, Bob said. He wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen, as I just kidnapped the Vice President of the United States. I didn't intend. And they had such a nice time riding around that when they got back to the station, I guess the daughters were like, let's do it again. And so they kept going. And he said, and we're driving this thing, and I am not sure that it's going to be able to make this, second time. He says, I'm envisioning like it catching fire. And here I burned the entire family, because we don't really have this. They didn't have a full evacuation plan yet, if there had been an emergency kind of thing. So it was just to hear the in his youth, kind of this excitement of having, this exhilarating moment, but yet also this tremendous fear of, I'm not exactly sure what I've just done and how I'm going to get out. If you can find it, I'm sure it's out there. It's out there somewhere, because it's a story he loves to retell. And honestly, if you ever have a chance to meet Bob, don't hesitate to be like, I know you've told this story a million times, but I got to hear it from you.
My favorite part. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
But if you buy him a martini, or what's his current drink of choice, he will tell you stories until you pass out. Because he will not pass out.
He is such a good storyteller.
His career, by the way, extends far beyond Disney. I mean, if you remember the incredible King Kong animatronic at Universal Studios, I mean, incredible. That's his animatronic. And he wrote about that in Designer Times. He did a lot of stuff in Vegas. So his career is amazing. But my favorite part of that story is he talks about when they got back to the monorail, Nixon roared with laughter. This was not the least bit funny to me. Yeah. So that's Bob Gurr. You can't tell the story of the monorail without telling the story of Bob Gurr. They are like ketchup and mustard on a hot dog. So in you don't like ketchup and mustard on your hot dog?
Ketchup and mustard on a hot dog.
I don't put a mustard on anything.
No, only mustard.
I don't like mustard, to be honest, nor hot dogs. So I don't know.
Only mustard.
It's like mayonnaise and relish on your veggie chicken patty. How about that?
At least you didn't say like ketchup on your potato salad.
I mean, I can't say that in front of you. You'll get mad at me. In 1961, the major change happened, and that is when the monorail went from being just an attraction to what's the word I want? Transportation. And that is when they extended it 2.5 miles, or round trip 2.5 miles, to the Disneyland Hotel. Donna, by the way, mustard and potato salad's okay, but I prefer mayo. To the Disneyland Hotel, and this is what the station looked like way back then. You can see.
Peter's got a fun fact.
Monorails were mentioned. Yes, the famous monorail episode of The Simpsons.
We may even chat about that.
So this is the monorail. It's Disneyland Hotel. I love these pictures. Those cars.
Do you remember the Disneyland Hotel when it was like this, Jeremiah, or were your Disneyland years after the removal of the bungalows and that little area over there?
Oh no, one of my favorite memories is when the monorail still stopped. Well, I guess it still stops exactly where it stopped anyway. But when it was the Disneyland Hotel was built out that way, and the ballroom that was just inside, one of my good friends got married in the Rose Garden, and her reception was right in that bungalow. So we are right in that ballroom. So that was like right at that station. And then, shortly thereafter, they tore it down and she got divorced. So it's all tied together.
Is this one of your good friends or one of your good friends?
Do you remember Daisy? Do you remember Daisy's Pantry?
Yes, that's where I would get my validation.
Right, you would go in there to get your validation so that you could park at the hotel.
I said because you get like a 3 hours validation with any purchase. So I would park at the hotel, go to the park for a couple hours, come back, literally buy a 35-cent lollipop, get my validation, and be out of there. That was my routine. Following the rules. Their rules.
Their rules.
There was no sign. There was no parking.
We're going to have to do a Disneyland Hotel, dig a little deeper at some point, and go into all those fun stories, too.
That's a good point.
I still have the charm bracelet that I bought at the... I'm pretty sure I bought it at the Disneyland Hotel.
With the really big Disneyland Hotel charm on it that was the side of the building?
No, this one was actually the Main Street vehicles. It had it was a Disneyland bracelet, but I'm pretty sure I bought it at the Disneyland Hotel. Actually, a present I bought for Doobie that's sitting right over there. I bought it at that old Disneyland Hotel. It was a collection of small sculpts of the Seven Dwarfs. Yeah, so I bought those. Yeah, which I'd forgotten I bought them until just now.
Was that the ones that he made the soap out of, and then he sent it to Walt Disney?
You know, when I married him, he had those Avon soaps.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
you
did.
Yeah, they were scary, so I threw them away.
I love these retro pictures. By the way, this car right there, that's actually Columbo in that little car.
I love. Okay.
All right. So why don't we go through, because at some point you've got to talk about the monorails themselves.
Okay.
So this seems like a good time. So obviously the very first monorails were the Mark I monorails, and this was what they had back in 1959. And by today's standard, that looks quite quaint. It's just tiny, only 3 cars, and of course have the bubble on top. As I said in the beginning, it was just a quick round trip. It did not actually go anywhere. And look how tiny that looks.
So teeny.
Is it just me or somebody sitting like literally on top of it?
Yeah, it looks like someone's there.
Isn't that weird?
I mean, the escape hatch is up top. You know, maybe it's stuck for all we know. Look at that gap there too. It's like you could walk in there. So this was the original monorail back in. This ran from 1959 to 1961. 3 cabins and a bubble. And then Mark II, little overhead view for that one. This is the Mark II monorail. This went from 1961 when it was extended to the Disneyland Hotel all the way to 1969. As you can see, it now has 4 cabins, but still has the cool bubble.
I want to know what that structure is, right? Like it's red and white with arches, and it's just behind the load.
Right here?
The load of the. You have to do on that screen. Just
I am on that screen.
Oh, okay. just behind the load of the Matterhorn.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know what that is?
Isn't that the weirdest looking thing? It caught my eye.
Can you? I was just about to say.
It looks like, I mean, it just looks like some sort of pavilion that they would have maybe like a character photo or something.
Yeah.
Right?
It totally does.
It's just so random.
Yeah, because that's kind of like right where, well, the queue for Matterhorn is now, but that's like the motorboat cruise is on the other side of that. So,
Motorboat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
and
looks
this
amazing.
is
It looks like a little
world.
bandstand or gazebo.
Yeah. It looks like a little gazebo, like that a character would be on.
Maybe they would have an Oompa band.
That makes perfect sense.
There. Wouldn't that be fun? I have no idea. Hey, Donna, do you remember that?
Oh,
I know.
No,
Donna visited Disneyland well before I did, so she may have some memories of what kinds of things could have been there.
Gio's right. If this were today, exactly. It looks just like
socially
that.
Distanced.
But as we can see, that was not an issue back in whenever this picture was taken.
Just because it wasn't there when I got there doesn't mean it wasn't there when Donna visited.
So
she got there before me.
This is the Mark II. Moving on to the Mark III monorail. This one looks cool to me. Make sure it's Mark III. This might be Mark II again. No, this is just another view of the Mark II. My mistake.
Yeah, your mistake.
And it still looks cool. See, I recognize it. So this is the Mark III. Not the best picture of it. This ran from 1969 to 1988. So I would dare say that many, many people's first visit to Disneyland would have been to this monorail. I forgot to start it with the video. I'm so sorry.
No, but I was gonna say you can throw that in right now because this is the monorail that would have been in that video.
Good idea. So let's get here. You vamp while I get that ready.
So that's the monorail that I would have recalled, the one with the stripe and then the kind of the metallic nature to it, with the doors that would swing out right at you. None of this nice little slidey door thing like they do now. And I would rush home from school so that I could watch the Mouseketeers because they would. I don't know if you need to mute it, but because this is how they would open their Showtime days. With a ride into Disneyland on the monorail and using it as a prop as they would dance and sing behind the doors.
Sing it.
No, I'm not going to.
We're not going to play it because we don't want copyright, but I was hoping that was Blair from Facts of Life.
That was Lisa Wishel.
Blair from Facts of Life.
That's Angel and
Showtime,
Julie and Kelly.
Get up and go time. Showtime. Rockin' and roll time.
Yeah, you're pretty close.
With the Mouseketeers.
Scott and Allison. All of them, yes.
Oh, that's not the monorail.
And then they would go to the trolley, yes, and they would be elsewhere.
This is literally my only memory of the 70s Mickey Mouse Club, that monorail scene we just saw. Just like you, I guess I would come home, turn it on, go, cool, monorail, and then see this and go click and move on with my life.
Mine will always be them playing at River Country.
But that's because it's the only one you probably ever saw on Disney Channel, right? Yeah, it still hurts that I can't watch any of them. I'm still bitter. That's like the only one out there, the Disney World. Like they visited Disney World once, and that's the only one that we still get to see all the time. Okay, but I'll move on.
Don's asking, did you used to be able to sit in the bubble? I don't know. Do you guys know? I mean, I picture the pilot up there, but it does look like there's a room up there.
No, I think it was the pilot view.
Yeah, like the submarine, right?
But if you look here, I wonder if in this Mark III there was more, because there's clearly two people up here now, and he doesn't have a hat on.
Well, he used to be able to stand up in the submarine if you were friends with the captain too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But all you could see was, nothing.
That's cool.
Fun stuff.
All right, so this is the Mark III monorail. Like I said, the Disneyland version. Many of us saw for the first time of a certain age, and this ran from '69 to '88. What happened somewhere in the midst of there? 1971, Walt Disney World opened. Of course, it had a monorail from day one. So let's just give them the Mark III. No. They got their own monorail, Mark IV. Check that out. So this was the Disney World monorail for 20 years, 1971 to 1991. It was, as they called it, the first Learjet monorail. Keep that view in mind. Here's what a Learjet looked like in the 70s. You can see the resemblance there. You can see where they got their inspiration.
So it really, really, I don't know, highlighted that kind of highway in the sky notion, right? Because now it's got a very heavily inspired aerodynamic nature. I mean, it always did.
No more bubble.
Bob Gurr tried to use kind of that Flash Gordon rocket design to kind of draw your eye up and away from the mechanics below. He wants to keep.
Did you read this, or is this coming out of your head?
I read, and it also comes. I've only heard Bob speak like 20 times about the monorail. A little bit of it permeated.
These monorails had 5 cars, much like the ones at Disneyland, and then later on, these same Mark IVs added a 6th car. But it was still the Mark IV. Back then, for those of you to go to Disney World now, back then, believe it or not, there was no standing. You actually had to sit in the monorail. And 2 of these trains were later purchased by the MGM Grand. And I can remember going to Las Vegas and experiencing these back in the late 90s. Are they still there? Does anybody know?
No.
They're not?
They moved on to those, I want to say in the mid-2000s.
Okay.
They changed up. And I think that the last thing I heard was they were just pretty much scrap metal.
And this is great. You're right, Kidder. Fun fact, by de facto, Jack Wagner, the voice of Disney Parks, the original onboard Disney World monorail announcer in the 70s.
He is still there.
Really? He's still the voice?
Just for the,
Remain seated.
cinnamon toast and tacos on the floor.
He has passed away. Yeah. His son sounds just like him, I've heard. So this was Disney World 71 to 91. These were still in service. There was some crossover with the next model, but at least some of these remained until 1991. Then the Mark V came in Disneyland in 1987, just before they totally got rid of the Mark III. So the Mark IV of Disney World never came to Disneyland. The Mark V did. Pardon me.
And it never left Disneyland.
As I wrote in my notes here, 5 jets. I have a feeling that's supposed to say 5 cars. So,
and they brought that Walt Disney World Learjet style to the Disneyland Resort.
So for those of you who aren't old enough to remember the 1988 version, this is definitely the version you remember. And there it is, going over the famous Golden Gate Bridge of Disney California Adventure back in the early days when they still had a Golden Gate Bridge. To me, even though I'm old enough to have ridden the 88 monorail, this is my monorail. This, when I became a fan in the mid-90s and was going constantly, this was most definitely my monorail. And then in 1989, at Walt Disney World, they introduced the Mark VI monorail. This is the version that's still there. 6 cars long. You can sit or stand in it. Doesn't look that different from the Mark V, but the standing is a huge change, and that allows for much higher capacity. And yes, Jeremiah?
On the inside of this monorail, they used to have that center divider with where you could kind of stand and you could lean against it, and then they had the poles, and now it's pretty much just they've removed the poles and the center divider. I know Shelley really liked the center divider part with the poles because you could just lean against it, but the seats now are the most comfortable.
I remember. I totally forgot they used to have that, but yeah, that was the comfy thing, just the lean.
Yeah.
That's gone.
Well, aren't those kind of coming back in a way with the way that they've added the partitioning now for COVID? It's almost like they're back, but they're not for leaning.
They're for
like protecting. Because I haven't been on them since they've done like this next level. Because when I was on it, they had partitions between kind of section A and section B. But now the last pictures I saw, it looks like there's even partitioning within section A. And it kind of reminded me of how that area could be kind of a little bit small. Yeah.
The lean was great. It was blue and it was like an upside down V, and you just chill on there.
And you had the two poles right there, so you can just hold on to it.
So
it was very comfortable just to lean against.
Yeah.
But it was awkward for strollers and chairs.
For sure.
That's why you used to have kind of designated zones for those. Now they do it more to just enable more efficient flow through. But back then,
get in there.
Really navigation of certain cabins was different.
There would definitely be awkward, like with different people in the cabin with that, how it could be awkward.
Did you guys ever play the circle game on the monorail?
Isn't that like a Joni Mitchell song?
Did you? It's where you grab. So you start at the station. Everybody picks a pole, and you put your hands around the pole, and then after it starts, then you have to try and not touch the sides of it. So you have to like keep your balance and see who could last the longest. You guys didn't ever do that?
Operation.
No.
Yeah.
Is that where you'd watch the goat as it went around the curve too?
It does have it can have a similar effect if you're somebody who gets motion sick, because since you're focused here, your peripheral with the motion going by, it can mess with you a bit.
Fun.
But it's fun, especially when you get like
bigger hands.
I don't want to say who I was doing this with because I'm worried I'll say somebody who wasn't actually. I don't want to bring them into this, but it was just a group of adults. I'll say there was like 7 of us. Yes.
So you're kind of proverbially not throwing them under the monorail.
Very good, but we so you just when you would look into the cars we were going by, you just see like 10 adult
people.
I can do it.
It was a fun visual.
It was fun.
But we had a good time.
So that's the Mark VI monorail, still in use today. You can go experience it right now if time sit there. Right now, if you want to, on any one of the 3 monorail tracks, 2 of which are actually running at Walt Disney World. And finally, we have Disneyland's newest monorail, the Mark VII, introduced in 2007. Took quite a bit of time to get this right. The blue one, but then it wasn't quite right, so they got to the red one, now the blue one. Are you saying they still have the Mark V there, Jeremiah?
Yes.
Ah. I know they have a red and a blue Mark VII, but they also still running the old one?
Yes. Or they just renumbered it, messed up the seating, and kind of put in a little air conditioning vent. Yes.
Okay. Tell more, Jeremiah.
So the Mark VII monorails that came out, you said 2007. Yes. I was working at the resort during this time, and I would be working at downtown Disney. So during my lunch hour, I would actually hop on the monorail to go into the park, kind of take a quick loop around. What they did was they pretty much took the Mark V monorail, kept everything underneath and reskinned it, changed the seating so now you sat around the circle, which was always difficult to get into even before it was this weird circle. And then the monorails never had an air conditioning unit, but the Mark V had more airflow. So when the Mark VII came about and there was no air conditioning, in the middle of a California summer, it would get very hot. My favorite story is going right over Fantasyland and the monorail breaking down for almost an hour as I'm on my lunch with no air conditioning at all. And that was a constant for 07 and 08. I mean, they still can't run the monorails during midday. Like, no matter what their stories are anymore, it is still, there's no air conditioning. They put in vents so the airflow increased, but it's still during the middle of the day can get well into the 90s, 100 in there because if they packed it full.
Works on the Skyliner. I don't know what the problem is.
I just remember my first time walking on, like, riding the monorail at Disneyland, and I was like, why is it hot? My friend looked at me, they were like, there's no air conditioning, and I'm like, what? I'm sorry, what?
One of the joys of riding the monorail back in the day was seeing people try to get those windows down, and no, they don't move. No, they move, but they were impossible to move, and people fight with them. Or it was like, or it just starts raining, and you're.
It was like riding the bus when you were a kid, and you had to push both the things and push them at the same time.
Indeed.
I mean, I definitely would be on the monorail fighting with them, but look at how small Doobie is.
It's not Doobie, that's Bob Gurr.
Oh.
So yeah, one of the cool things about the monorail, still at Disneyland when it's open, no longer at Walt Disney World, is being able to ride in the nose cone or the tail cone. And then a nose cone with the pilot. This is the tail cone where it's just your group, and just kind of fun. Oh, Jeremiah, you're a co-pilot. Congratulations.
How old is that one, Jeremiah? Is that more recent or older?
This is from the 25th anniversary.
Okay.
So, and this was probably the last version that they gave out to guests.
I have that one somewhere.
Yeah.
And on the back, it talks about the front of cab capacity for 4 guests. And I can remember waiting at the monorail station. Oh, are we going to talk about changes to the monorail over the years? The tracks?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Well, in 1971, when Walt Disney World opened, there were only 2 tracks for the monorail, and one was the Express to the Magic Kingdom, and the other was the Resort Monorail that stopped at the Contemporary and the Polynesian, and then would go over to Magic Kingdom. And then as we move forward to 1982, they added in the Epcot Loop. Yes, sir.
Did it back before Epcot, did it stop at the TTC, the Express?
Yes.
That was
it. Sorry. Yeah, they were both. It was that one, the left-hand side was the monorail station. So you would have this one, which was the Express, and then this one.
Why did it need to stop at the TTC if there was no Epcot? And there was the Express I mean, the not the Express, the Resort Monorail. Did the Resort Monorail stop at the TTC?
Because everybody would park at the TTC anyway.
Even the people staying at a resort?
Well, no, but that was the easiest way. Yeah.
All right, go on.
Yeah, the TTC was the load area, the main load area. And then in 1981, going into 82, they built the Epcot Loop, which picks up at the Ticket and Transportation Center and heads over towards Epcot. And you can see these beautiful monoliths and these. Oh, wait, no. Sadly, the monorail has not reopened to Epcot because if it had, we'd have some of the most amazing pictures of construction right now.
And that Epcot Loop is the loop. I mean, that is just such a long. That's the most. Hey, this is actual transportation because you're riding right along World Drive, and then you get a beautiful loop of Epcot, and it's a long drive, and it's almost a Skyliner level. Almost.
Yeah, in the closing year or the past few years, I would be on the monorail almost weekly to get photos of the construction going on at Epcot. And I could tell you, I had it timed perfectly of where I would start my video going into Epcot and where I'd end my video coming out of Epcot. And I love the monorail. I love the monorail here at Walt Disney World. Disneyland, it was definitely an enjoyable thing, but it was definitely more of just an attraction, not transportation. Because
even though it went to the Disneyland Hotel, a large number of people just got on the monorail and rode it round trip back and forth, and you didn't have to get off at the hotel for the most part, as long as it wasn't an obscenely long line. And in fact, back in the day, and I miss this, you used to be able to pay a few bucks at the Disneyland Hotel get on the monorail. They put you in the tail cone. They mark it so they didn't reopen at Disneyland, and you could just ride round trip to Disneyland and back without paying Disneyland admission. You just pay. When I did it, it was like $3, $3 a person trip from the Disneyland hotel and back to the park and back in the tail cone of the Disneyland monorail. I mean, that was awesome. That was awesome. Not anymore. That's been gone for quite a while.
Oh, check this out. Gio says he remembers that the Epcot Monorail station was used as kind of a preview center for Epcot, and see Donna comes into also remembering that.
Oh,
so
wow.
That's pretty cool.
Wow.
I have to poke around and see if I can find some pictures. When you say Epcot Monorail station, there's only one thing that comes to my mind, and let's see if I can pull up this picture.
Is it the Epcot People Mover?
No. Let me
Just those
see.
awesome elevators?
Yeah, see, it's this right here. Slowly approaching that. Is it pink tower?
Ish.
Yeah.
It's more silver now. They've repainted that area, but yeah.
You don't know your colors.
Just past where this lady is walking in this image is the elevator that you can ride up to the station if the wheelchair is not able to make it up. And there is something about that elevator that anytime I was in it, I was like, I hope I make it to the top. I don't know why. Nothing about that elevator ever instilled any confidence in me. No matter how long I was there or how often I had to utilize it, I had no sense of confidence being in that elevator. Yeah, sorry.
Because this also gives you a picture of the longest single walk in all of Walt Disney World, and that is having to get on this monorail at the end of a long visit.
Oh, dude. With the elevation.
And there is nothing worse than walking out and you see the monorail at the station or just pulling into the station and trying to get up that long ramp right there, and you get up there just as you hear the and you know you have if they're running one monorail, you have a long wait, but usually there's at least 2 or 3, so it's not too long. But there have been times where I'm like, yeah.
But it's funny to hear you talk about how the Epcot monorail played such a role in like your following construction, because without the DCA monorail, it gave us such a view into the creation and development of DCA.
Yeah, we would ride this monorail because it would run during DCA's construction, and you saw the Golden Gate Bridge. It literally went through the park while it was still under construction. I mean, we were set, like 3 of us lined up against the wall, just waiting.
Yeah.
Back before video was so common. And
Yeah.
you're just firing away, getting all the construction pictures from the monorail.
Because
Beautiful.
they returned it to round trip service in December with the park opening in February. So it was during that period where you were getting kind of a lot of like the decor added, the signage and these kinds of, when it was getting beautified. It was beyond this stage. During this time period, what would happen is from, I want to say it was March until December, when in March of 2000, they reopened that monorail station, and they only ran the monorail one way. Yes, Jeremiah?
Shelly, do you know what that structure is right there in the middle of the picture?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. What is that?
Well, follow your memory of downtown Disney. If the monorail station is on your left, what's on your right?
The Lego store?
Bingo!
Yay.
The way they would operate the monorail is it was only utilizing half the track. So you would have a monorail, perhaps this monorail right here has backed through the station to this spot, and then another monorail would come in from Disneyland and stop at the monorail station, and then it would load, and it would travel into Disneyland station, pull beyond the station, and then this monorail would then go in and stop at the station and offload, and then it would come back and pull back. So you would have 2 monorails, but they would be traveling the track within the same general time frame. But it meant you would just kind of be sitting on the track for a while. You weren't just load, ride, offload. You were load, sit, ride, get off. Yeah.
And they did not have controls for the monorail in both the front and back. There was only controls in the front. So when it went back, they actually had a camera in the back, and they were driving via camera. So
So
That's
it was
bonkers.
All this for DCA, and then the thing flopped. So
yeah, no, it was a very different kind of operation pattern for the monorail those months from May. Initially, when it was announced, it was anticipated it was going to be March through summer, but it ended up not being returning to round trip until December. So
And we also skipped over one other time, and I think that you guys, I don't know if either one of you would have remembered this because you weren't the diehard Disney yet. In 1994, the monorail shut down for construction of the Indiana Jones adventure, and they had to reroute it, and that's why there's that weird, almost like you go and then you kind of go.
Oh, I didn't realize that was what that was for.
Yeah, that was the time that the construction actually happened on it.
one of my favorite questions is this, because this was the Disneyland Hotel monorail station. Now it's the Downtown Disney monorail station. And I love to ask people how far they actually had to move the monorail station to accommodate that. And of course, they didn't. They actually destroyed part of the Disneyland Hotel, made it part of Downtown Disney, but the monorail was in the exact same place it always was.
And so because you don't have those shorter bungalow units and everything, as soon as you step off the monorail, you feel like you walk so much farther from the monorail station to the lobby, when in reality, the monorail station and the towers are in the same places that they were during that change.
Working at Walt Disney Travel in 2001, just after it opened, I cannot tell you the post-traumatic stress syndrome that I have from people saying that the monorail station moved and having to tell them, and then they yelling at me, "No, it's not. They moved it. No. They moved the headstones, not the body."
And over
You moved that, but you didn't move the body.
Over the years, they've changed the look of the monorails in Florida. Well, California too, but it really kind of started in Florida. But they do wraps now, right? Let's see. It started. I think of it as really starting with Iron Man. Do you guys think of it that way?
I think of it as starting with the Tronorail.
I know they had.
Yeah, the Tronorail.
Sorry, I said Iron Man, but I was pulling up a picture of the Tron.
Rail.
But before this, it had been kind of like enormous stickers, like Stitch licking the windows.
Yep.
and balloons and things like that. And then you started to have kind of the more things like this. It was funny because they went back to this when they did the Walt Disney, the toy monorail one. But then they started doing these full wraps where it was
Iron Man 3 did not deserve a monorail.
Iron Man.
Yeah, they had the Avenger Rail, which was that was the first one at Walt Disney World that caused the whole, wait, what about the legality of it? Because it could only run the the resort route. It couldn't go the Epcot route because if it went into the park, that crossed over into the there's something in the park that's Marvel and blah 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 blah.
I forgot about that whole controversy.
That is hilarious. But go back a second, because this picture. I'm sorry. Can you put that one back?
That's on the Epcot Loop, right?
On the Epcot Loop. They stopped it right there for the picture and then they sent it back the other way.
Probably, yeah, because I remember that whole thing, and I was in California when that all was going on because it was a huge discussion among a bunch of us nerds.
So, pardon me?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What else do we want to talk about? I was going to bring up another. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Do you have a picture of it when it was the Finding Nemo monorail?
You have that one in there.
I do. Hang on.
Because that was always the weirdest, like right when the subs were reopening, it was like yellow on yellow.
That's not yellow.
Oh, well, I have a different Nemo one. I don't have the one you're talking about. The yellow on yellow.
Yeah, because I could remember when Finding Nemo, the subs first reopened, and it
looked like kind of looked like a sub. Yeah, my favorite of all monorail images is this one with Mickey's the monorail driver. I know this image is too small for everybody watching to notice, but yeah, because this actually was an enormous wall-sized poster inside the Monorail Cafe, which was a diner restaurant at the Disneyland Hotel before that construction. And Juby has a picture of it that I'm not seeing right now. So, oh, there it is, cafe.
Several of them.
It's right in front of me from the Magical Hotel blog.
Oh.
Oh, I'm trying to drag it onto the wrong screen. Okay, there we go. The Monorail Cafe, and out front you'd have these these chairs for waiting that were the back end of a Cadillac, like a 57.
Oh,
you know.
cool.
And then on the inside, you'd have this amazing wall mural with the buckets, kind of based on the poster art for the attraction back in the day. You'd have classic cars. And then on the wall, there was this that poster that I showed at the beginning of this was the picture. And then when it closed, they hung up a beautiful logo mural that they let people sign. Were you there, Jeremiah?
You were there?
No, this is one of the most annoying things in Disney to me. Put that picture back up for me. What is the date it says for the Monorail Cafe?
Yeah, I know. It says 55. I know.
When did it open?
Well, not 4 years before the monorail.
No, it was. I don't even think it. No, I think it was much later because when it first opened up, I want to say it was after Disney purchased the hotel in the 80s. But that's one of those things, like every single piece of material that has come out about the Monorail Cafe, it says 1955 to whatever year, and it's just one of those things that, like, you know, it's like wind chimes to Doobie. It's just kills them.
Got shot today. My is very important.
Hold up. Just a moment. Here, let me explain to everybody what just happened. So his mother just texted him.
Was in her 80s.
Got my shot today, which in the world of COVID is good news. But I'm focused on what Jeremiah is saying. He shows it. I see my mother-in-law's name and got shot today. I didn't see the my. So it was a moment, and he shows it to me with joy on his face.
And here it is.
It took me a moment to process, so I apologize to everybody. But yeah, so that's what just happened. Okay, but the Monorail Cafe is where I used to go. We used to go all the time as a family, especially on those blockout days as locals. And I would enjoy a chocolate Coke. That is a Coca-Cola with chocolate syrup. So good. One of my favorite beverages still. I actually, long time ago when Laughing Place first started, I wrote about how every once in a while I would get a craving for a chocolate Coke because of this cafe.
I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but when I hear Monorail Cafe, I just think of people smoking.
Yeah, I can understand.
You should talk about because the people that worked with Monorail Cafe had more seniority than anyone in the world. They'd been there all their lives. And
with smoking being much more part of the culture, it was one of those things where your servers often would smell because they'd just come off their break. You know, you'd have that cigarette smoke smell. But so it was kind of part of the charm back then.
I do mean that.
It did because it was becoming less and less something that you encountered as that was kind of fading out of common social practice. So yeah.
So the Monorail Cafe from 1956 till 1986 was known as the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Disneyland bought it, acquired the Disneyland Hotel, they transformed it to the Monorail Cafe.
So it more accurately was said 56. That would have been fair.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's just more of a name change than anything else. But as Donna points out, yep, it was that place you'd go for that late night snack after the park closed. And if you were at the park so late that it wasn't open, then you'd hit the Jenny's on the 5 as you left town.
And as Mike points out, there are a bunch of people here who expected us to start at 2:30 who would disagree with you.
Yeah, sorry.
We started early for our normal time, but late for today's scheduled time. I'm not pointing any fingers.
It's okay. It'll be here for you.
All right. So the monorail, of course, Disneyland, Disney World. I don't think Paris has one. I'm pretty sure Shanghai and Hong Kong don't have one. Does Tokyo have one? Does anyone know?
I know.
Oh, I'm so glad you've been to Tokyo, Jeremiah, right?
Correct. In 2001, which you may find that strange because when did Tokyo Disneyland open, Doobie?
1983. Are you taking over screen share here, by the way?
I will take over screen share.
Okay. 1983.
And then what year did the expansion happen of the Tokyo Disney Resort?
2001. Same year as DCA. Never been a better park for Disney parks. Better year for Disney parks.
Oh, I think better park, like DCA is the better park here. Yes, in 2001, the Tokyo Disney Seas opened, and a monorail opened. It is not a Disney monorail because one of the things with Tokyo, and this applies to why Tokyo Disneyland doesn't have a train that encircles it, is because for Japan, there's a law that if a mode of transportation covers such distance, it is actually run by the government. So the Tokyo Disneyland Monorail. Here's the picture from when I was there. This was. It is a much nicer monorail because, again, it's government, and so they had to build it. Has lots of space in there, and they theme it constantly. There's been a Duffy monorail. This was when the Finding Nemo attraction was opening in Tokyo Disney Sea, just mere days after I left the park. Not that I'm bitter or anything. So this one. Let me get the exact date so I can be cool like Doobie.
Everybody wants to be cool like Doobie.
It began operation July 27th, 2001 at the resort. It's the resort line. I always mess it up every single time. And it travels around the Disneyland Resort. It goes to the hotels, and there is a few stops, but the number one location, I really need to learn how you guys do the cool screen share. So this is the main load area.
Yeah.
You actually load right across from the main entrance. The Disneyland Hotel is directly behind this. For some reason, I don't have any pictures of the monorail load station from that side, mostly because I think I was always running into it.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
So like at Disneyland Resort, the parks are head to head. Are they butt to butt in Tokyo?
They're a little more side to side.
Okay, so you can't walk from one entrance to the other.
You can, but it is much more like walking from Epcot to Disney's Hollywood Studios than Disneyland DCA.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you want to show up that picture, Doobie?
If you don't have something like it, so that you give a flavor for it.
Good.
Yeah. So these are some of the images of when it had its Mickey theming inside there. You can see the familiar red and yellow and black. You can see the handholds are Mickey shaped handholds. Windows, obviously the windows are still very Mickey shaped. So that, a very different level of beauty to the interior of the Tokyo monorails versus what we encounter here in the States.
Yeah, and because it is government with Disney working together, the station is open to the public. You actually have to purchase a ticket to ride it. So that's one of the reasons why I don't have a lot of pictures for it, because where I was staying at, I could walk. You had to cut through one of the stations to get into the park. So I walked past it many times, but I think I only rode it once. And we do have a video up on our YouTube. But this is probably my favorite picture of the trip around it. It's the back of Tokyo Disney Sea.
Jeremiah, is is Geo right on this, that it's an automated experience as opposed to a direct driver interaction?
It is automated. I sat up in the front, so that's one of the other reasons why I don't have any pictures inside, because I was so enamored sitting in the front of the car. So what we're looking at is a roadway going around the corner. That's the Twilight Zone Tower, the Tower of Terror, and that's the SS Columbia, and that's just a wall separating that from the roadway, and you're looking at this from the monorail station, or from the monorail itself. Yes, sir.
Question. I've never been to Tokyo. Is the SS Columbia essentially the SS Rustworthy?
No.
No, you lose points, Tony.
No.
Okay.
It is not.
Just checking.
It is not.
So here's a better view of what the full monorail looks like. And it is truly a mode of transportation there, because to get to some of the hotels that are located in the far back area of the park, it is a challenge to get around unless you are doing the monorail. And then this picture, I think, will be very much something that we may look at and, as Californians, go, "Oh, this looks so familiar." That is the roadway. Straight ahead of us is Mount Prometheus at Tokyo Disney Sea, and that's the monorail station, monorail to the right coming down the roadway.
When did they install a mountain on Disneyland Drive?
Exactly.
Crazy.
That is so weird. That is wild,
Yeah.
how similar that looks to Catella and West and all that.
Disneyland Drive, yeah.
Disneyland Drive, what you said.
It's missing the dip, too.
Yeah, use that dip.
Hey, I was taking the picture, okay? Leave me alone.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, so the monorail out there it is a mode of transportation, and you can use it to connect to the other transportation to get around Japan. So it is very different out there, and kind of leaning in that way. Hong Kong doesn't have a monorail station, neither does Shanghai, but to get to Hong Kong from Hong Kong proper, you have to take a specific train out to a train station, and another train from that train station to the resort. And even though they don't have a monorail, that train is very much the Disney themed. If there was a monorail or a train, it would be that type of feel. And I couldn't find any of my pictures of that off the top of my head, but it has the same feel with the Mickey hand holds and all the fun designs.
Before we move to our next part of this, I feel like we're missing something. So, Jeremiah, can you tell us something we would not have today were it not for the monorail?
Ooh. You can think on that, Jeremiah, as I share one of my favorite odd monorail-related special offerings at the Walt Disney World Resort.
Jeremiah's stuck.
I
have an idea.
It isn't currently happening. It's still listed on their website, but no
It is?
dates. It's one of those things where, but yet there's no actual booking dates available. And that is the Progressive Dinner. And Jeremiah has actually taken part in this on behalf of Laughing Place back in 2016. I have seen reviews of it as late as 2019. And given what happened in 2020, I don't know if it was a matter of it had stopped or if COVID had gotten in the way of it. But you would start off with a delightful appetizer round at the Wave at the Contemporary, and then you would have some entrees and food items over at the Polynesian, and then they would take you over to Citrico's for a main hearty entree of at the Grand Floridian, and then they would also offer you some cheese plate type stuff at the Garden View Lounge.
Yes.
Where is that?
That's still there, right? That's the downstairs one. The one upstairs is the one that renamed.
Correct.
At Grand Flow.
Oh, okay. What did you eat at TTC? You like a churro?
And then they finish off with a high in the sky buffet of desserts over at the Contemporary. And this all came with, it was a prefix meal. It came with alcohol. It cost you $150 per person.
Lots and lots of alcohol. Like by the end of that, there were people that I did this on my own and I don't drink. So again, one of those times where they gave so much alcohol and I'm just like, let me take a picture. There were people that were writing that with me that by the time we made it to the dessert party, we're just like, we're going to our room, because a lot of them were staying at the Contemporary and didn't even pay attention to the fireworks because it was drink, drink, drink. This has changed since that was actually the first offering, the first day they offered it. I got a chance to do it, but that was also before they started doing the security checks at each of the hotels. Where you can see for the Polynesian, we were at the patio of Trader Sam's. Now it's pretty much it was right after you got off the monorail, that little lounge area that they built next to the shop to the right, and everything else I think was essentially the same, but they definitely had some problems with if the monorail had broke down. Especially with high traffic nights, they actually had boats ready to take people to different areas because the monorail would be so busy. So while it is a great concept and it had some amazing food, it was not the best thing to do because it is a mode of transportation for guests, not just a ride like it is at Disneyland.
And because the monorail doesn't actually, it takes the loop around the lagoon. It wouldn't require park admission. This was a dining event, yeah. So you could just enjoy it that way. But see, if you go to DisneyWorld.com, it simply says temporarily unavailable. I don't know, like I say, so I don't know if this is something you should continue to keep an eye on. My understanding is it sells out very quickly whenever it does pop up as available. So yeah, but it's one of those things, it is on my bit of my to-do list when I get back. Cause we've done that kind of thing, kind of make it up on our own.
Right.
So
yeah, the Monorail Bar Crawl, I think, is the main reason why they just created this, because that became one of the most popular things is people drink around the world, but the real pros do the Monorail Bar Crawl and hit every bar along the monorail loop, and there's quite a few of them. Okay,
Shelley, if you're constructing date night around the monorail or girls' night out around the monorail, what's your plan of attack?
Okay. Here's what I'm thinking. I think we start at the Poly. Mm-hmm. They keep changing it. That bar outside of Ohana for Lapu Lapus, because those are my favorite. We start there. We head over to the Grand Floridian. At the Grand Floridian, we eat at Central Coast, because I do love Central Coast, and they had a delightful dessert of 3 little gelatos. Yes. C'est magnifique. Then you head out, go to formerly known as Meisner's, get a drink, get back on the monorail, go over to the Contemporary. Now, here's where you could split it and make it a little spicy, is that you could go down to the Wave. You go down to the Wave to get a cocktail, go up to the Grand Flow for a glass of wine, and Grand California for a glass.
You're drunk already.
I'm like all over the place. Go upstairs,
the California
get a glass
Grill,
of wine, get back on. You dance party since it's a little bit longer. Back to the TTC. You rally at the TTC. You get off back at the Polynesian. Go to Trader Sam's. Hit Trader Sam's. Call your Uber. Go home, and then nobody talks about what happened.
You don't have to worry. No one's going to remember what happened.
What happens on the monorail stays on the monorail, right, Shelley?
After Trader Sam's, there was another loop of dance party on the monorail if time allowed, because there was hardly anybody. There would usually not be anybody on it. Right. So that way, that gave you a little bit of time. The dance party was magnificent. We also had a couple cast members who would jump on with us to the dance party, and then we go. And this is why I don't drink anymore.
You're ugly. Exactly, Mike. That's what that sounds like to me.
Oh, Jeremiah,
way,
when you first told this story, Jeremiah, I'm like, oh, maybe we're missing out on something not being drinkers. But then Shelley told her story, and I'm like, no, we're good. We're good.
Is Outer Rim still there?
Yeah.
I
don't believe it's open right now,
Okay.
but it is still there. Because right now Chef Mickey's and the Contempo Cafe are the two that are open there. They don't have the Outer Rim open, but you can go down to the Wave. They do have their bar available.
So on the Monorail Loop, what's your favorite breakfast? You got a favorite breakfast on the Monorail Loop?
Oh, that's easy.
As I go, that's tough.
It's tough. It's tough for me. It's easy for Jeremiah. What's your pick, Jeremiah?
Oh, Kona Cafe all the way.
Oh, there is nothing.
No.
There is nothing wrong with Kona Cafe, but I am going to say, first of all, 9200 Park Fair is great. Grand Floridian Cafe is awesome, but because of this view, which I can't believe I didn't have in my notes, the fact that the monorail actually goes through hotel, I am going to say the restaurant that's no longer there.
Steakhouse.
What was it called?
It was Steakhouse Grill, right? Isn't that what that was called back in the
So
day?
that's not quite right. But whatever restaurant used to be up there next to Chef Mickey's, it was a table service restaurant, and they had these sticky buns that were just amazing. And I have a memory of eating those sticky buns while watching monorails go by, and that is the perfect way to start your Disney day.
But the most underrated breakfast on property is the Wave when they have their buffet available.
That buffet is like 20 out of 10. So good.
Makes up for the rest of their meals.
Their buffet is amazing.
The key lime hollandaise sauce.
What's the name of that restaurant?
I'm trying to look it up.
The Concord Steakhouse.
Right? Thank you.
Thank you. I knew I had steakhouse, but I put a grill on it. Concord Steakhouse, of course.
That place was a great way to start the day.
Yeah, I still miss that kind of diner feel location in that huge atrium. The current menu just isn't for me, the current menu just doesn't fit the vibe I'm in, the mood I'm in when I'm in that location. I don't know why, but it just doesn't.
Yeah.
So ultimate favorite meal on the Monorail Loop. Like very favorite dish I have a problem where there's a certain dish on the Monorail Loop that I will get massive cravings for. And what's ridiculous is it is something very simple and I can just make it at home.
No.
But
I'm going to go first.
I want to eat at this place and have this dish. I am
a vegetarian. My favorite place to eat, no question, is Palo on the Disney cruise ship. But the single favorite meal best vegetarian meal I've ever had was we went on a date to what was at the time the new, what's it called? California Grill, which is, by now is probably 10 years old. And I have no memory of what I got, but I just remember I got their vegetarian option up there, and it was quite simply the best meal I've ever had in my life as a vegetarian. So there you go. That was easy.
How about you, Jeremiah?
The California Grill, as somebody who isn't, I know this would come as a shock, I'm not really much of a fancy eater. Like, you can give me a corn dog, I'm fine. But the 2 or 3 times I've eaten at the California Grill have probably ranked up there with my experience at Palo or at some of the, at Blue Bayou or Club 33 for some fine dining.
Just toss out Club 33 like it's nothing.
I know, exactly.
Dinner at the club with Bonnie and the club.
Okay. How about you, Shelley? What's your pick?
This might be a little controversial, but I don't know if it's because I've been feeling very nostalgic about it. The meat sweats at Ohana. I have been like craving like the salad and the meat and like
That was one of the last times we had a good meal all together, wasn't it, Shelley? Me, you, and Tim, we went there, and that wasn't too long before we closed.
So, two things come to mind for me when I think my favorite Monorail Loop meal, and the first one is when we were first married, we went on our honeymoon to Walt Disney World. And that first day, you're kind of, early in the trip, you're kind of like you're exhausted, especially you're coming from California, right? The time change and all that. And we had dinner at Narcosi. And they brought out a noodle bowl that I had no idea a noodle bowl could have so much flavor, so much diversity of flavor and texture. It was
incredible,
ridiculously good. It's still the best noodle bowl I've ever had. And over the years, we've dined at we've dined at Narcosi, and the level of service was always really. Always took a really good care of us, and we would eat so that we would time it so we could walk out on the patio and watch the boat parade that I love so much, the electric water pageant. But my craving, it's very sad, I will admit, but the Grand Floridian Cafe's Cobb salad. I prefer it to the original at Hollywood Studios, but I will get the worst cravings for the Grand Floridian Cobb salad. There's something about their dressing and honestly, just the environment of the Grand Floridian Cafe in general. It's color scheme. I love weather vanes, just the big open windows to the outdoors and that stunning grand flow pool. It's just, so like I say, every once in a while, I will get the Grand Floridian Cobb salad craving, and I will have to go because thankfully Trader Joe's vinaigrette is almost, you can play around with it and throw a few things in, and you can almost convince yourself you're at the Grand Floridian having it.
Here's a picture of us, by the way, at our honeymoon at Narcoossee's back in 1999.
That dress looks amazing on you, Doobie.
Yeah, it did.
Stand on their feet.
Did it anymore?
Yeah, no.
But at the time,
and he used to wear his hair different.
Yeah.
That's Kurt Busch.
Rebecca's gotten prettier.
That's Kurt Busch, by the way. Right?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure that's Kurt Busch. I think that's Kurt Busch.
Which one?
Did you just randomly choose that picture, Doobie?
I searched my site for Doobie Rebecca Narcoosse's, and this is the only picture that came up. I thought maybe we'd written about it or something, but that was before we had website, so I guess not.
So I think I know where I'm going to go sometime this week to have a Cobb salad.
I don't think it's on the menu because of the limited Corona stuff. Because when we went on vacation, I looked at the menu and I didn't see it listed on there. So I was like, okay.
Tell them who you are, Jeremiah. They'll make it for you.
Do you know who I am? Oh, and I want to say, if not for the monorail,
here we go.
We wouldn't have moving walkways. Because that ramp would have been the first time that they had the moving walkway.
At Disneyland or ever?
Well, at Disneyland.
Moving walkway.
Okay.
And I want to say before that came before the World's Fair, which was where the moving walkways became very popular. But if not for the monorail, we would not have the monorail song from The Simpsons.
Sing it.
And we wouldn't have everybody
Monorail!
And we wouldn't have people walking around all the time going, please keep your, please remain seated.
Por favor.
Remain seated, please.
Is that what you wanted to
say? Centavos, por favor. That's from Matterhorn.
Yep.
Shelly, you had your hand up a moment ago.
We're getting ready to sign off, I think. I don't know. Was there
no?
Add in?
All right.
I was trying to think of what it was in Spanish, and then my brain just went.
Okay.
No worries.
Anything else you wanted to add in here, Jeremiah, on the monorail?
So, are we going to talk about what next week's topic may be about?
Jeremiah hinting at what he wants next week. So you want to continue to be a world on the move?
There is no next week. Next week is Super Bowl.
We're going to take a break off. A week off.
I was thinking of more like we could do something on Monday.
Oh, that may not be a bad idea, actually.
Ooh, we'll keep that in mind.
Okay. So
I don't want to talk about rocket rods. It's
next Monday is DCA's 20th birthday. We have yet to fully decide on everything that will be happening, but you can bet we will be celebrating on Laughing Place in style.
We have been looking through our archives, trying to decide what we want to bore you with from 20 years ago.
Go Bucks. That's right. Go Bucks. It's Tom Brady, but I'm still rooting for him. All right. What a great question. Let me tell you. Coming up tomorrow morning, man, we are busy tomorrow. At night, these are all Pacific times. If you're on the East Coast, add 3 hours. Add 3 hours. All right. Coming up
Oh wait, I was the one who was asleep.
at 9 o'clock, we have Jeremiah live from Epcot. What are you going to see? Anything in particular?
Well, tomorrow is the opening of the the Soul of Jazz. Man, I would remember that at the American Adventure. So we'll be taking a look at that. Hopefully, we've not tested our signal in there, but we'll definitely have some coverage of that.
We did test our signal there recently, and it was pretty good.
Inside
we went
American Adventure?
Yeah, because we went to see what it currently
was. Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. And then at 11 o'clock, we've got Mike Celestino coming live from downtown Disney at the Disneyland Resort, where I don't know if the Star Wars will be open yet. We're going to see what's going on there. Check out Buena Vista Street, of course, as DCA nears its 20th anniversary. At 1:30, as always, right now is Marvel Monday, recapping WandaVision.
And learning what new items related to the world of Marvel and WandaVision have popped up various places.
And then Jeremiah is doing double duty tomorrow, as he will be at Disney Springs at 3 p.m.
So mature.
I'm doing triple duty tomorrow, actually.
He's got more.
Oh, wow. At 3 p.m.
He's got more than that, by the way, because he's got 3 p.m.
Man.
4 o'clock, he's got Disney Parks Talk Live, and then at
7:30 p.m., he is doing LP Movie Club. He'll be a part of the Mary Poppins Returns talk. So tomorrow is wall-to-wall Jeremiah. I advise you, Jeremiah, get some sleep. And then Tuesday, bright and early, Jeremiah again, live from Disney's Hollywood Studios. So
it's all Jeremiah.
If you mute our channel for a couple of days.
Lots of fun stuff. I was
Mike, we did get some photos, and we do have a brief blurb about the reveal of the new lightsaber, and we have some great pictures from the lightsaber gathering meetup last night at Disney's Hollywood Studios.
With yesterday being Ahsoka Tano Day, that seems to be kind of the timing frame that people seem to gather to celebrate the lightsabers.
Sorry, everything's fine here. Just some dogs barking out there.
Everything's fine. How are you?
Nothing.
No, it's all good. People are outside and dogs are barking. Just want to be sure everybody's okay. Then don't forget this evening. This evening, actually, on this channel at 7 o'clock, is LP In Depth, and Alex and Ben are going to be talking about the Sundance Film Festival and kind of letting you know what Disney-related properties and whatnot were presented throughout the Sundance Film Festival. And they'll probably talk about some of the other stuff too. So
lots of stuff. That's why you want to make sure you subscribe to our channel, however you're watching us, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Twitch even. And make sure you ring that bell on YouTube, the ring. That way you get notified when we go live. It's been fabulous to talk to both of you today. Thank you on the go at MCO, Shelley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rip Van Jeremiah.
Thank you.
And thank you, my lovely wife.
And thank you, Donna.
Yes.
For
yes.
Happy belated birthday.
We appreciate that very much. And Kidder has suggested that we talk about Small World, so we will make sure that we will put that on the list as well. So don't forget, please feel free to reach out and let us know what you'd like to hear.
One more quick reminder, my 50th birthday is Saturday, and I wear a size 5X. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.